From the beginning, humans have had to coexist with the fact that evil exists in the world. No matter the year, geographical location, or social status you find yourself in, we have all at some point seen the consequences of evil. That's why all cultures have graphic representations of what evil looks like. Because having a person or demon that represents this concept makes it much easier to understand. And in our culture, this is no exception. Such is the case with the supervillains we can see in superhero stories. They are characters that represent what we as a society think is evil, because it turns out that the concept of evil varies from culture to culture. However, not only that, but in these supervillains we can find that not all motivations for evil are the same, that even in evil there are types and levels. Hello Geekers, how are you? I am Go the Geek Monitor and I welcome you to a new video essay. If you are new to the channel, I tell you that here I like to take comics very seriously and I analyze them in depth to be able to see beyond the obvious. Today we will analyze the 4 types of philosophical evil, and I am going to tell you which supervillains fall into each of these categories. Go the Geek Monitor! There are people who think that the concept of evil is already obsolete, that saying a person is evil is to pigeonhole them into an unreal stereotype similar to a monster or demon, and there is some truth here. In the past, it was thought that many evil acts were committed by people who were possessed or influenced by a demon. Not only that, but today we still use this kind of language to talk about some people who have committed extremely violent acts. In both cases, the intention is the same: to dehumanize evil people, to paint them as monsters, to distance ourselves as much as possible from them. However, as terrifying as it sounds, evil is something very human. The philosophical theory of the 4 types of evil that we will analyze today comes from the book Philosophy of Evil, written by the philosopher Lars Svensson, who precisely affirms that all human beings have committed evil acts, although not all of us have been motivated by the same things. That is it equally evil in Watchmen, who murders millions of people in an attempt to save humanity, as characters like Sinestro or Lex Luthor, who do it for personal gain? According to Svensson, each of these characters is evil, although they are in different categories. Number 1. Demonic evil. This is the evil that corresponds to characters like Joker or Carnage. They are characters who perform evil acts with the sole purpose of doing evil. Characters of this type do not seek personal gain. They commit evil acts simply because it gives them pleasure. It should be clarified that Joker has not always behaved this way, but today, when we talk about him, we usually imagine this character who sows chaos simply because it gives him pleasure. And this is the most popular version of the character today. Now, on the other hand, Carnage from his first appearance began to kill people randomly without any other additional motive, which makes him an excellent representative of this type of evil. Something very interesting that happens with demonic evil is that when we think of evil people, we tend to think of this type of evil. That is, we usually think of people who enjoy being evil. However, Svensson himself says that it is very likely that this type of pure evil is only found in fiction, where it has been quite popular since very ancient times. In fact, the visual appearance of both Joker and Carnage also follows this line of ancient cultures, where pure evil was represented through demons, and perhaps this visual aspect is part of what makes these characters so effective. However, we must not forget that both characters suffer from a mental illness, and here we have to ask ourselves, can we consider a sick person as evil? That is, their actions are evil, but we could not assure that they are, since if there is no free will, moral evil simply does not exist, which reinforces the idea that this type of evil perhaps does not exist in the world. However, the other types of evil are much more common. Number 2. instrumental evil. These are the kind of people who commit an evil act knowing that it is something bad, but they do it with the intention of achieving a different goal. A good example of this type of villains are the Rogues team in The Flash. If you notice, they rob banks and hurt innocent people with the intention of making money. But they don't do it because they enjoy robbing banks or hurting people. They do it because they want to be rich. In fact, they regularly have a quite strict code of conduct in which they don't kill people unless it's absolutely necessary. Another example of this kind of evil might be the character of Ozymandias from the Watchmen comic. He was a masked hero who realized that humanity would go extinct unless the United States and the Soviet Union, the two major world powers, came to a peace agreement. For him, the only way to achieve this goal was with a plan that would kill millions of people. In his words, his intention was to kill millions to save billions. This tells us that characters who represent instrumental evil can have negative goals like the mere personal benefits sought by rogues, as well as positive ones like Ozymandias' world peace, and that if these characters could achieve their goals in another way, they surely would. That is, if the rogues found another easy way to get rich without having to hurt other people more. It's most likely they wouldn't rob banks. The same goes for Ozymandias. He really does regret having to kill all these people, but he did it because it was the only way to achieve his goal. In this sense, the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Thanos also seems to follow this pattern of evil, where he knows he's doing something wrong, but does it to achieve a specific goal, and is even capable of sacrificing his own daughter to do it. In the comics, on the other hand, we can also categorize Venom here, a character who doesn't like to see innocents suffer, but is willing to endure it if it means ending Spider-Man. If you notice, these types of characters don't find satisfaction in doing evil. They find satisfaction in achieving their goals, and this is a type of evil that we can often find around us, both in organized crime and in common crime. And before continuing with the other type of evil that is my favorite, I'm going to tell you that the topic of this video was decided by you thanks to your votes on my Instagram, defeating a video I had prepared about Zuko's morality. So if you want to vote for new video topics, I invite you to follow me there. Number 3. Idealistic evil. This is the kind of evil that is committed thinking that it is right, and precisely here lies its danger, that it is about people who do not realize that they are committing an evil act. In fact, quite the opposite. There are villains and fictional characters and people in real life who even think it is their sacred duty to commit these acts. In fact, the Salem witch hunts, Hitler's crimes against the Jews, and other extremely violent acts in world history have been committed with the belief that the right thing was being done. In comics, we have the example of Reverend William Stryker, who is an evangelical leader who confronted the X-Men precisely because he thinks mutants are a divine punishment, a race that genuinely needs to be eliminated. In his mind, his interpretation of the Bible tells him that it's okay to eliminate these individuals as they are not human. This is very different from the way Magneto, another enemy of the X-Men, acts, who, despite many of his plans over the years to eliminate the human race, always does it to reach his goal and not because he believes it's the right thing to do. This is the main difference between idealistic evil and instrumental evil, the fact that idealists don't realize they are evil. Another clear example of idealistic evil can be found in the character of Lex Luthor, who in many modern stories opposes Superman and wants to destroy him because he genuinely believes it's the best for the human race, as he thinks we can't trust Superman and that his intentions will always be the best, as he could enslave us at any moment. If you notice, both Stryker and Luthor consider themselves the heroes within their own story, and we can consider both characters as idealists, even though their ideals are perverse. This type of evil is very interesting, but they are not the only ones who don't realize they are being evil. Number 4. Stupid evil. These are the people who don't stop to think whether what they're doing is right or wrong. They simply take actions and don't think about the moral consequences. In the comics, a clear example of this kind of evil is like when Hulk loses control and starts to destroy everything in his path. This destruction is clearly evil, but often Hulk doesn't realize this. Now, it should be clarified that this type of evil is not exclusive to monstrous characters like Doomsday or Hulk who barely know how to speak. There are other types of characters like Deadpool who, while not entirely sane, certainly does have the ability to analyze whether something is right or wrong. But he often doesn't stop to think about it, like the time he used his daughter as bait without carefully considering the consequences. Let's say that what characterizes stupid evil is the absence of reflection. Here it should be clarified that each person can be in more than one category of evil, and that each of the characters I have mentioned so far reinforces that point. Joker, for example, throughout his history inside and outside of the comics, he has been able to represent demonic evil when he enjoys hurting people. Instrumental evil in those classic stories where he robs banks and is more like a gangster. Ideological evil when he burns a pile of money in the movie The Dark Knight just to prove a point. And stupid evil in those stories where he simply kills out of sheer boredom without thinking about his actions. Throughout history, we humans have assigned a face to evil, because in this way we make an abstract concept a little more understandable. And we feel comfortable thinking that evil people are monsters or demons, because in this way we distance ourselves as much as possible from them. They are the monsters and we are not. However, evil is an extremely human concept that we have all committed at some point, and this classification of motivations by Svensson certainly helps us to understand it better, looking inward and not outward. If you enjoyed this villain analysis, check out my video essay examining an intriguing dialogue from Lex Luthor in Batman vs Superman. He discusses the problem of evil and absolute virtue. Similarly, if you have more examples of villains and their types of evil, leave them in the comments. I would love to read them. That's all for today. I am Go and I'll see you next time.